awesome! 107 brake horsepower, my ass! Hey up and welcome back to Appleyards in Keighley. Fantastic, well-established dealership here in West Yorkshire. Get yourself down, bags of bikes, bags of demonstrators, and a warm and helpful welcome is assured. So today I'm going to be taking out the 2023 Suzuki VStrom 1050 standard model. Okay, so join me for the ride. Let's see what all the fuss is about, eh? Then the 2023 Suzuki VStrom 1050. Now, a few weeks back, of course, I took out the DE version of this bike, so it'll be interesting to see how the two of them compare. And presented here in very fetching cherry red. With matching wheels. So let's climb upon this beauty and see what it's all about, eh? And the first thing I've noticed is it's not quite as tall as its DE sister. The DE, having more of an off-road focus, has a slightly higher seat, and I can tell that straight away because I'm almost, in fact I am flat-footed on this bike, and on the DE I certainly wasn't. So let's have the old TFT theatre. This, in my view, has to be one of, if not the best TFTs on the market. It's crystal clear, there's no confusion of information, everything is where you would expect it to be. Rev counter on the left, digital display of the speed in the centre, gear indicator on the right, top right the traction control, throttle response and ABS settings, and on the bottom your odometer reading and battery voltage, outside temperature, and in the middle there the fuel gauge, and around the periphery the main warning lights and an additional gear indicator, and a familiar throb from that 90-degree V-twin, and it is a V on this bike. So let's see how we get on here. Oh, wake us a shove from this engine, predictably. So well mapped, this Suzuki engine. All the power right where you need it. No, it is. It's 107 brake horsepower, but it's so well mapped that you can feel the magnitude of that shove in the mid-range there in fourth gear on that overtake was absolutely effortless. And once the revs are up on this V-twin, it's really smooth. Balance the shafts and all that. But of course this is a V-twin, so there's none of that parallel twin shenanigans of you know, trying to make a parallel twin feel and sound like a V-twin. This is a V-twin, and don't you know it. Lovely elevated riding position again. You can see right over the traffic, and really comfortable. Bars not quite as wide as the DE spec VStrom. And there are one or two other bits and bats which we'll talk about when we do the walk around that set the DE model apart from this. Apart from the extra, what, 600-700 quid for the DE. So just a steady 30 miles per hour here in third gear. Let's tickle fourth in and see what the fueling's like. And we've got a hill coming up here. 30 mile an hour, fourth gear. Purring like a pussycat. Effortless. It'll probably do that in fifth. Very, very tractable engine indeed. Beautiful on the bend there. So I think all of that, you know, slightly the lower seat and 19-inch front wheel instead of a 21-inch front wheel, and it just gives it that edge when it comes to road riding, this bike. So if you're after something like this, a mid to heavyweight adventure bike, but you don't necessarily need the full fat off-road credentials, this is a very realistic proposition for you. Perfect view in these mirrors, absolutely panoramic to the rear. Oh, I tell you what, should have taken my liner out of this Merlin jacket. I'm going to have to take it out, I'm cooking. I have to say, I have been, of all the bikes that I've reviewed, both at Apple Yards and bikes that I've reviewed throughout my extensive motorcycling life, not all on YouTube of course, but generally speaking, I have to say I have been really, really impressed with the Suzuki VStrom. Now, my good friend VFR Mitch Gaza, go give his channel some love on YouTube, VFR Mitch. He swears by the VStrom, and he had one that served him very, very well indeed, and he never grows tired of singing its praises, and I can see why, because both the 1050 DE and the VStrom 800 DE both wound their self into my affections not long after riding them, and it's the same with this. And for the sheer elemental pleasure, the sheer down-to-earth organic riding experience, you cannot beat a twin. I say that, I'm not keen at all, to be fair, on the Boxer twins. Having had a couple, I'm not a big lover of Boxer twins, which are almost exclusively confined to BMW, aren't they? And that's what sort of turns me off about the GS's. But V-twins and parallel twins, particularly for the parallel twins with a 270-degree crank, they just bring something to the overall riding experience which is, you know, visceral, down-to-earth, gutsy, basso profundo engagement with your riding experience. So yeah, to my mind, and I know there are endless debates concerning the price point here, and that perhaps it's not as competitively placed as it should be, but you are getting with bikes like this, and indeed this bike, the inclusion as standard as a two-way quick shifter. And so to that extent, they're not at an unreasonable price level. And of course, the fact that something isn't in and of itself hugely competitively well priced does not mean that it won't pluck at your heartstrings when you get to ride it. Get down to Appleyards in Keighley and take this bike out. This bike at just over £13,000. Don't get me wrong, by the time you've kitted this out with everything that you want, it'll be a bit more pricey. And certainly by the time, you know, if you were completely kitting out something like the DE model, you probably would be around about the with luggage and all of that. All the doings is you'd probably be knocking on the door 15-16 grand, I would suspect, but still massively better value than the equivalent GS's and Tiger Explorers and Super Adventures and indeed Africa Twin Adventure Sports of this world. But you just gotta love adventure bikes for their absolutely comprehensive utility when it comes to riding. I mean, the modern adventure bikes have got all the performance, they've got all the handling, they've got all the luggage carrying capacity, the touring capacity, the pillion capacity. They don't always have the looks, but that's a subjective thing. And although I found the sort of katana-like front end of the VStrom 1050s a little bit of a turn-off initially, I could forgive that because they're growing on me. Right, let's just see what the acceleration's like here. Oh my word, yeah. Come on, what do you want? I had a couple of comments on the channel after I'd reviewed the last VStrom, talking about mediocre performance. Mediocre? Crikey, I mean, I don't know what some people expect. If you want him pull your face off performance, number one, go get a Kawasaki H2 or similar, and number two, kiss goodbye to your licence. So there she is then, the 2023 Suzuki VStrom 1050, the standard version as opposed to the more off-road focused DE version. So let's take a look around the bike. And of course it divides opinion, that 80s retro headlight. Bit of a nod to the old Suzuki Katanas, but it's sort of growing on me. Let's just say the jury's out. So let's come up to the front here, and unlike the 21-inch wheel of the DE version, this one has a 19-inch front wheel, makes it sharper on the turning, more suited to road use. As you can see there, the wheel is a cast alloy wheel, sporting tubeless Bridgestone tyres, which seem absolutely planted on the bends. We have two 310mm front discs, sporting radially mounted 4-piston Tokiko calipers. And the suspension on this bike is KYB 43mm fully adjustable forks with 120mm of travel. Taking us to the back end of the bike, we have a 17-inch rear wheel, a 265mm single disc with a single pot, single Tokiko brake caliper. It's a double-sided swing arm and the frame is an aluminium frame, twin spar frame. And the rear shock absorber you can see there again is KYB, single shock and again fully adjustable. Unsurprisingly Mahusive Euro compliant exhaust there, but still quite an entertaining sound therefrom. If we look towards the rear of the bike there, you'll see we have mounting points for the relevant luggage options, a rear rack and a decent sized pillion seat there. So it'll be a perfect bike for touring. We have chain drive and I'm pleased to say also, as standard on this bike, a centre stand. Always good to see. There you can see your preload adjustment for the rear suspension. And there we can see the 90-degree V-twin engine, 1037 cc's, double overhead cam, 4 valves per cylinder, liquid cooled, putting out 107 brake horsepower at 8,000 RPM and 100 foot-pound of torque. I'm talking old money there. I'll start again, 100 Newton meters of torque at 6,500 RPM. Bit of a plastic bash plate going on there, probably more a stylistic exercise than a functional one. Coming up to the tank then, a 20-litre tank and acclaimed, optimistically claimed MPG of around 68. My guess is you'd get, with sensible riding, you should get about 200 miles per tank from that fuel reserve there. The handguards fitted as standard, and on the brake side we have an adjustable 4-span brake lever. You have your standard kill switch and ignition, hazard warning switch and your cruise control set switch. And I'm very pleased to say this bike comes with cruise control as standard. And that all drives the TFT screen menu, which I showed you right at the beginning. Pleased to see at the side here we have a standard USB power point. And the screen, whilst adjustable, is only adjustable, I would suggest, off the fly. I'm not going to do that there. It's a braver person than me that attempts to adjust that on the fly, but yeah, it is an adjustable screen, as you can see. So yeah, you know, the looks could grow on me. So seat height 855 millimeters. So let's look at me seated upon the bike. Right, so I'm 6'1" with a 32 to 33 inch inseam, and as you can see, I'm flat-footed on this bike, whereas on its DE cousin I was well up on the balls of my feet, so a lower seat than the DE. Really comfortable riding position. Nice relaxed position at the handlebars, not too far stretched. Not quite as wide in the bars as the DE version, but plenty wide enough. And the riding position itself, as you can see, basically a 90 degree or thereabouts knee angle on the foot pegs there. Very comfortable indeed. And As I've said before in relation to these V-Stroms, probably a bike that fits me like a glove, like no other bike. It's like they were designed around my frame, which they weren't. But it feels that way. You know, same with the DE, same with the 800 DE. They've just got a really, really natural fit to them. Love it. And of course, when you take into account the competition, and I suppose its nearest competition would be the ubiquitous Honda Africa Twin, wouldn't it? The price points is pretty good. It's pretty good. Just over £13,000 for this bike, and I think about 13,700 should you wish to opt for the full fat, if you like, DE version with its additional off-road capability. So I suppose the question that you want me to answer is, were it my bike, would it be this one or would it be the 1050 DE? Or between the two, let's have a see. I don't ride off-road by and large. This is as close as it gets to off-road for me. Bit of a gravelly car park on Baildon Moor. So I don't do a lot of off-roading. It's mainly on-road. I do like to tow. I do like to be able to carry luggage. And in every pragmatic sense, this bike should tick all the boxes and win the day over the DE. So what do you think I'd be going for? I'd be going for the DE, which is not to decry from the impressive credentials and superb riding experience of this bike. It's just me. I can't have a standard version of anything. Any bike I've ever had, it's always been the top spec and the best that you can get for any given model of bike. That's just me. But there's something, you know, about that blue and yellow V-Strom 1050 DE with fully kitted out with engine bars and spotlights and a full set of boxes on. There's just something about the looks of that bike that absolutely lights my fire. And so this will be a very, very close second, but I can't give you a logical or pragmatic reason for going that way. As I said earlier, I'll probably be spending 15, 16 grand on a fully spec'd DE. But this bike, you know, if you like your touring, if you want a bike that'll do anything and go anywhere, that isn't overly expensive to run, that's reasonably frugal, that can carry two if you want to ride two up, and that can take you vast distances in supreme comfort with all the creature comforts that you could want for. It's got a 6-axis IMU, it's got lean sensitive ABS, it's got cruise control, it's got a 2-way quick shifter, which we'll try in a little bit before we wrap up, and I would simply say, what a buy for your money. Go try this bike at Appleyards. This is their demonstrator. Go give it a try, you won't be disappointed. Okay then, so let's try the quick shifter. 3rd to 4th, perfect. To 5th, to 6th, yeah, and down 5th, 4th, 3rd, up to 4th, 5th, 6th, down to 5th, 4th. Yeah, quick shifters absolutely bob on this bike. It's not a deal breaker for me in a quick shifter, but if it's important to you, then this one here will definitely tickle your fancy. It's a cracker. So in conclusion then, what can we say about this, the 2023 Suzuki VStrom 1050 Standard? Well, a really viable option if you like the DE model but you don't want the off-road credentials. So this bike is 10 kilograms lighter. It has a 19-inch front wheel instead of a 21-inch front wheel. It has cast alloy wheels rather than spoked wheels. And it has an 850mm seat height, which is a good bit less than that of the DE. And it's got the bells and whistles. It's got an IMU, lean sensitive ABS, cruise control. It's got hill hold. And if that isn't enough for you, I don't know what is. So if you're interested in this bike, get down to Appleyards, have a ride on this demonstrator. And if you're in the market for a mid to heavyweight, do-it-all adventure bike that represents good value for money, returns reasonable running costs and has a history of proven reliability, then this bike could be for you. So hope that was of some interest to you. If it was, please click a like, please share and please subscribe. And until the next time, ride safe, be kind, and I'll catch you on the next one. Toodle pip!